Hi everyone, I'm Marianne, I'm your French pastry chef. Welcome to my kitchen. Today for Christmas, this is a special one I want to share with you. This is all the small biscuits, the small treats we used to make and bake as kids growing up in France. We have our cinnamon stars, we have some chocolate truffle, croquant with almonds, pistachio, hazelnut, we have our gingerbread, cake, the madeleine, of course, the classic madeleine, and some pistachio financier. So let's start the class. For our chocolate truffle treat, we will start by making a ganache with dark chocolate pellets here. We have our milk with a little bit of vanilla extract. We have some unsalted butter as well. It will help with the texture. And then we have our cocoa powder with a little bit of golden specks here and there just for the festive side of it. So to create this ganache, I'm gonna pour the hot milk on top of my chocolate. So you want to wait a few seconds for the chocolate to melt, and then you put your spatula back in the middle and you will start your emulsion. You're just going to mix in the middle of your bowl and you're not going to move your spatula around the edge. Then gather everything in the middle of your bowl and continue your emulsion. Now we have a lovely ganache. I'm just going to add a little bit of unsalted butter in it. And I mix until everything is combined. So now our ganache is shiny, it's ready to go in the fridge. We need to cool down. Overnight is ideal, but at least 6 to 8 hours because we want to have a thick consistency, thick enough to be able to do those nice little balls that we'll put in the cocoa powder after. Before putting your ganache in the fridge, make sure to have your cling film that touch your ganache because you will have some skin formed and it's not ideal. So our ganache is nice and cold and very hard, so we'll need like the help of the spoon, and you want just to take a little bit with your spoon, put this in your hand, and we will create those small balls of ganache. Try to work fast when you're on that stage because our hands are quite warm and it will melt the chocolate. So once your little balls are done, I'm just going to pop them into the cocoa powder. We have some specks of gold in it as well. You can add some sprinkles if you want. You can roll those little ball of ganache into coconut. Anything that is in powder will work very well. And once they are in the cocoa powder like this, you're just gonna roll your box around. Once they're done, make sure to keep them in the fridge. Once again, it's ganache, so it needs to be cold. So that's our chocolate truffle done. Make sure before putting them in the fridge to dust a bit more of cocoa powder on it because the ganache will absorb it a little bit so they will stay nice and fresh. You can also put some nuts inside of them. It's lovely if you have some hazelnuts, some almonds, even pistachio, and you roll your ganache around them and it's like a little surprise in the middle. Our next treat will be the croquant. The croquants are coming from the south of France, very close to Italy, and the process is mainly the same than the biscotti. So we'll start by putting all our dry ingredients together. So we have our plain flour, caster sugar, baking powder, and ground almond. Then we have our eggs and yolk, milk, and our nuts here. So today we have hazelnut, almond, and a little bit of chocolate chips, but you can use pistachio, you can use all nuts, just chocolate, it's really up to you. And I will finish with a little bit of orange zest on top. So I'm just gonna add my sugar, caster sugar, baking powder, and ground almond. And I'm gonna give a good mix. Make sure everything is combined. And now I'm going to create a well in the middle and I will add my eggs and milk to it. So we have 2 whole eggs and 2 yolks. I'm going to give a quick mix in the middle first and then I will mix everything together. Switch for the spatula, it will be easier to mix your dough together. And at that stage I will add all my nuts and chocolate. And I will put my orange zest as well. It's lovely with cranberries as well, if you like it, or you can even put a little bit of mincemeat to it. It's very nice. So now our dough is ready to bake. We want to shape that dough in logs and we'll put that log in the oven. That's the first bake. We call this biscotti because we have 2 bakes, that's the name of it. So we're going to remove this from the first bake, let this cool for a couple of minutes, then we will slice it and put those slices back in the oven for another 8 minutes. So you'll see that dough is very sticky, so be sure to have a bit of flour with you. It will be easier to shape it into the log. And once you have it, you're just going to drop this in your baking tray. And this will go in the oven for 10 minutes, 180 degrees. So the first bake is done, it's ready. I'm just going to let that cool for a minute before slicing. Slice with a serrated knife, it would be easier. And really wait before slicing. We have a tendency to just slice when it's too hot, but it will crumble if you don't wait long enough. Now we're putting our slices back in the tray for the second bake. So it's been 8 minutes now for the second bake and our croquants are ready to go. They're golden, they're crispy, absolutely perfect. Make sure to let them cool down completely once again before storing them. Airtight container and you will be able to keep this for a long time. Our next treat will be the financier, pistachio financier we're going to make today. To do so, we have our icing sugar, plain flour, baking powder and a little bit of salt. We have ground pistachio, so if you want to do an almond one, you will use ground almond or ground hazelnut, depending. We have egg whites and we have butter here, but we're going to do brown butter for that recipe. So to do brown butter, you need to leave your butter a little bit longer than usual and it will start to gently brown in your pot. It will give you this nutty taste that will pair absolutely perfectly with our financier. Our brown butter is ready. It needs to cool down slightly because then we will mix it with all our ingredients but our egg whites and we don't want it to cook the egg whites. Just a quick word on the ground butter. You want to leave that on your pot on the heat for quite some time because all the liquid and the moisture and the water content basically will evaporate from the butter and then we'll have the nice browning arriving after that stage. So you'll see the foam will rise up and then down. That's normal, don't touch anything. And then you'll start to smell this nice nutty smell that is brown butter. So while our butter is cooling down, I'm just going to mix all our dry ingredients together for the financier. We have icing sugar, plain flour, a little bit of salt, baking powder, and our almonds. And we're just going to give a good mix, make sure that everything is well combined. Perfect. And then I'm going to switch for the spatula because once again, it's going to be easier to mix everything together. And I'm just going to create a well in the middle of it. And I will add our egg whites. I'll give a quick mix and then I will add the brown butter. Now our egg whites are mixed with the powders and I'm just going to add the brown butter now. And that nutty taste with the pistachio is just perfect. So our mix is done and ready. It needs to cool down, so we're going to put this in piping bags and then 1 hour in the fridge and it will be ready to bake. So our batter for a financier rested 1 hour in the fridge, can even go overnight, so if you want to prep that in advance, that's a possibility. We have our mini financier mold. I just put some grease on top of it to be sure that it's easy to unmold after the baking time, and I'm just going to pipe my financier in. When you pipe financier, because we have baking powder in here, it will rise in the oven, so don't overfill your mold because it will be like everywhere and it will be difficult to remove and we want to have something nice and neat. So now it's ready to go in the oven. So we have 180-degree oven for 12 minutes. So our financier are baked now. You can remove them quite easily from their mold. We want to let them cool down a little bit and then put them in an airtight container up to 10 days or until you're ready to serve them. So those are the mini version of the financier, but you can bake the real version of it, the bigger one. It's just going to change in the oven. You have to let them stay a little bit longer than those one, but the recipe will be the same. Our next treat will be spiced madeleine. So to do our madeleine, we need room temperature butter, caster sugar. In here we have plain flour, spices. So we have cinnamon, cloves, all those nice Christmas spice we can find. And in here we have a little bit of honey, we have baking powder, brown sugar, and our eggs. For the madeleine, we will start by our butter. It has to be room temperature butter. That's important because we want to cream the butter with the sugar. And our caster sugar. Perfect. So now we're going to cream everything. So make sure to stop your KitchenAid once in a while, just to get all that butter and sugar back in the middle, back in the center. And you will see when it's ready, it will become fluffier and whiter in color. So as you can see, now our butter is creamed, meaning that it has the consistency of the cream with the sugar. So it's white, it's fluffy, the sugar completely dissolved in the butter, and that's very important when you do any type of cake, really, because that will bring lightness to your cake. So now we can add our other ingredients, and we will add the eggs one at a time. Once again, make sure to scrape all the butter that will stay stuck at the edge of your KitchenAid bowl back in the middle. Very good, and we'll mix again. All right, so now our eggs are fully incorporated. I will make sure to scrape down all that butter at the bottom as well. Don't forget the bottom of your bowl. It will look quite lumpy. You will have pieces of butter here and there. That's absolutely fine. It's really a question of temperature. But once you're going to add all the other ingredients, which we're going to do right now, you see everything will be combined together and it will be very good and good consistency. So we have here our brown sugar, we have our honey, baking powder, and a little bit of salt. And now I'm adding as well the plain flour. We have all our spices, cinnamon, cloves, mixed spice, everything you like really for Christmas. And I will mix it again. Because we're adding the flour at that moment, we need to be very gentle on the mixing. We don't want to develop the gluten as much. We want our madeleine to be light and soft and fluffy. And we're done. Make sure that everything is nicely combined together. We have that paste here. It smells amazing. So I'm just gonna gather all the ingredients that might stay on the edge of our bowl. Give a last mix with the spatula and put this in a piping bag. So to have a good consistency when you bake the madeleine and to have this nice dome on top of it, we need to let that dough rest at least overnight in the fridge. So I'm going to put this in our piping bag and leave that rest overnight. So our madeleine batter is ready now. It stayed overnight in the fridge. You'll see because it's cold, it's a little bit stiffer, but that's normal. So be sure to have a nice coat of oil, butter, melted butter, or a spray, all-in spray in your tin before pouring any batter on it. And don't overfill those tins. It's important because we have baking powder inside of that, so it will rise in the oven once more. We don't want to have all the madeleine being stuck together. So they're ready to go in the oven now. It's 190-degree oven, slightly hotter compared to the other ones, and it will bake between 10 to 12 minutes. Once again, it depends on the size, so keep an eye. Our madeleine are done. It's been 10 minutes in our oven, 190 degree. We have this lovely dome here. Make sure when you get them out of the oven to remove them right away from the tray, because otherwise they will get stuck and it would be a shame. Let them cool down as well on your cooling rack. It's important, so they will reach their nice texture. So make sure to let them cool. You can store them airtight container as usual and just enjoy them. Our next biscuit will be our cinnamon biscuit stars. So to do this, we have unsalted butter, room temperature. We will cream that butter with our caster sugar, and then we have 1 whole egg and 1 yolk, and plain flour and cinnamon. So we will start by mixing and creaming the butter with the sugar first. And we really want to take the time here to cream it very nicely so it's light and fluffy. It will have a good result in your biscuit in the end. It will be very crumbly, lovely to eat, a good snap, perfect for a biscuit. So our butter is very creamy now. I will scrape down everything back in the middle. So it's white, it's pale in color, it's creamy, absolutely perfect and ready for the next step. Now we're adding our eggs into and we start mixing again. Now our eggs are fully incorporated. we have a lovely soft texture. And we want to do all that mixing before adding the flour. Once we add the flour, we have to keep it to a minimum because we don't want to have a tough biscuit. We want something light and airy and crispy. So I'm gonna add the flour all at once, and I will barely mix until it's all formed in a bowl. And that's it. You don't want to go over this. It's still very sandy, very crumbly. That's normal. We're going to put this into a piece of cling film and wrap it up and put it in the fridge. Our dough rested 4 hours minimum in the fridge. It needs this time to get together so you can be able to roll it nicely. To do so, just take a bit of parchment paper and we are going to roll our dough like that. I like to make sure that my parchment is not stuck to the dough because then we end up in breakage, and we try to avoid this as much as we can. So you start from the center and then you push through your rolling pin until you reach 2 to 3 millimeters for your stars. You can also dust a little bit of flour if you want to avoid the greaseproof paper. I prefer the greaseproof because then we are going to dust those cookies with sugar and cinnamon, so I would prefer for them to stay stuck on it, so I'm not using flour on this one. Make sure to release your dough from the baking paper, and then we are doing our shapes. So today we're doing stars, but obviously at home you can do whatever you want. When you press your cutter, be sure to move it around. It would be easier to remove the cookie. Let some room around them when you put this in your baking tray because they might move a little bit during the baking time. So at least we know they don't end up being stuck together. If your dough is too soft and a bit difficult to manipulate, be sure to put your tray in the freezer before baking them. You'll make sure that they won't spread too much because we creamed that butter, remember, and we want to keep that nice shape, so putting them in the freezer first will help with that. So here we have a mix of caster sugar and cinnamon. We have a little bit of water there. Be sure to remove the excess of water from your brush, and we're gonna gently brush our cookies to make sure that our powders here stay stuck on them. And then we're just gonna dust this mix on top of our cookies. And then it's ready for the oven, 180 degrees for 8 to 10 minutes, but always keep an eye. For our next treat, this is going to be the equivalent of the gingerbread biscuit. So we have plain flour, we have loads of spices here, we have cinnamon, we have nutmeg, cloves, we have our sugar here, 1 egg, honey, and unsalted butter. So we'll start by melting the butter with the honey in the pot, and we will let that cool for a minute. So now our butter is melted with the honey, so we want this to cool down a little bit, so we'll put this on the side and we will mix all our dry ingredients. So we have our plain flour, I'm gonna add the caster sugar and all the spices and give a good mix. We want to make sure everything is well combined before adding the rest of our ingredients. Now I'm going to create a well in the middle and I will break the egg in the middle of that well. I will switch to the spatula and I will add a little bit of the powder at a time just to initiate this nice first mix. Now I will add the rest of my honey and butter right in the middle, and I will incorporate gently and nicely the flour with the butter and all those spices. It smells amazing. So press that dough just to get the rest of our dry ingredients. We don't want to overwork it either because we want to have something nice and light with our biscuit and not something too stiff. So that's our mix now. It needs to stay in the fridge 4 to 6 hours minimum. Overnight is the best option. So put this in cling film and in the fridge. Our dough stayed 6 hours in the fridge. Once again, overnight is the best option here. So I'm just gonna pop it between 2 parchment paper and roll it down. Because it's gingerbread dough, you don't really want to go too thin, right? We want to keep like quite a nice thickness to it. That's the type of dough you use to build those gingerbread houses. Once again, make sure to release the paper once in a while. There you go. So we have 3 to 4 millimeters thickness, which is quite good. And now today we're using trees, some Christmas trees. Once again, make sure to keep them spaced in your baking tray. If you're in doubt with the temperature of your dough, if you're afraid it's going to spread too much in the oven, pop it in the freezer 5 minutes and then in the oven, and you'll see it will hold the shape. So it's been 10 minutes at 180 degrees and they are ready. Absolutely gorgeous. Once again, make sure to let them cool on a cooling rack before eating them. It will help to hold its shape. You can store them in an airtight container. That's the same thing that the other cookies we made so far. If you'd like to add some royal icing on it to do some decoration, just make sure that they completely cool down before adding any, because otherwise it will melt, it will be a mess. So let them cool down and then do your roller icing. And that's all our treats and all our biscuits done for Christmas. We have our cinnamon star here, we have our chocolate truffle, our croquant with almonds and hazelnut and chocolate, we have our gingerbread, our madeleine. It's absolutely gorgeous. That's something you can do for your family, for your friends, just like giving to our neighbors. I know that's something my neighbors love absolutely when I do this for Christmas. And it's mostly all those small things we used to do as kids growing up in France with our moms, our dads, our grandmothers. So it brings loads of lovely memories for this Christmas time. Thanks for watching this masterclass. Thanks for sharing this moment with me, and be sure to follow for more.